Oh, hello. Father Coulter here. I'd like to tell you a story about a time I worked on a parish on the west coast of America. It was a lovely place. The weather was really hot. Unfortunately, after 5 months, tragedy struck. A deacon, who arranges all the music for the services, mysteriously died. After his funeral, it was all quiet for a couple of days. Then the scruffy lieutenant from homicide showed up. Italian fella. Didn't get his first name. Had a bit of a wonky eye. I didn't mind him. I found him in a church all on his own playing the organ one day. Can I help you, Lieutenant? Now, I'll try my best to do an impression of him, because he was a very eccentric man. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to play the organ so loud. It's a beautiful church, might I add. Thanks, Lieutenant. It was built in the 15th century by a Benedictine monk. By just the one monk, sir? Yes, by just the one. He was 56 when he did it. My God. And there's me, I can't even play my nephews with a duplo. I pushed him a bit further to see if there was anything I could do to help, and he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a wafer of Holy Communion. Do you know what this is? Yes, it's a wafer of Holy Communion, Lieutenant. I was a wee bit taken back by this and confronted him. Lieutenant, it's extremely blasphemous to carry around a bit of Holy Communion in your pocket like that. He offered to put it back, but he had his hands all over it. So on the spot, for a surprise, I asked him, would it be alright if I'd administer communion to him? You do that for me, sir? It's no problem, Lieutenant. I took it off him. Are you a hands or a tongue kind of guy, Lieutenant? Oh, I always go for the tongue. Before I could administer it, he grabbed it out of my hand and explained. I wouldn't do that, sir. You see, this is a very special piece of Eucharist. You see, me and the boys have down the lab have tested this, and it contains trace amounts of salmonella. You see, I believe the deacon was murdered. Murdered? I could hardly believe what I was hearing. You see, our murderer must have known before the deacon went to bed every night, he had a wafer of Holy Communion as a blessing. And the next morning when he woke, he ate a full chicken. Our murderer had to know his routine. All they would need to do is swap the communion with the salmonella Eucharist and make it look as if it was the chicken. Well, I didn't really know the deacon that well, but I'd heard people behind his back say, he's such a glutton for chicken, it's only a matter of time before he ate some pink meat. It was at that moment that the cardinal burst into the room, and he was very angry. Apparently, the lieutenant had been following him around for the past couple of days, at places unannounced. Once at a golf tournament, one time at a late night dinner in a restaurant, and he even popped up out of the blue at a dentist appointment. Well, the cardinal had had enough. He immediately set about berating the lieutenant and disproving all his theories. He said, I'm so confident that the Eucharist is safe, I'll even eat it myself. He grabbed it out of the lieutenant's hand and popped it into his mouth. It was very clear that he chewed and swallowed it. The lieutenant looked defeated. The cardinal laughed and went to walk out of the room when the lieutenant sprang at him and grabbed his hand. And would you believe it? There it was, the Eucharist from just a few moments ago. You see, the cardinal hadn't ate it at all. He palmed it for one that he had in his pocket, using a technique that he'd learned from a magician. Well, it was all laid bare. The lieutenant started pointing into the corners of the room, and police officers emerged. Are you a witness to what he just did? Are you a witness to what he just did? Are you a witness to what he just did? Yes, I am a witness to what he just did, they all said in unison. The cardinal confessed on the spot. He said in his defence, the deacon was a very loud, rude man, and he wasn't much of a fan. They gave him 30 years in prison, but because he was so high up in the church, they just made it go away. After a couple of weeks, I was sent back home. What have you done now, they said. Nothing. I explained what happened, and we all just went about it. True story.